Hello YouTubies, this is Joker Scribe, and thank you for watching this more bodacious and amazing YouTube video. Right, so if you've been reading newspapers, looking at Yahoo, anywhere, you'll be seeing all these environmental stories and blah 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 blah. I want to get right into the meat and potato of these stories right now. And somebody asked me on my channel, oh, do something about conspiracy theories. Well, this is not really a conspiracy theory as such, but might be seen as a conspiracy by some people. Okay, guys, sinkholes. The sinkhole story is coming up. According to the national newspapers, they can appear anywhere, anytime. Now, that came about from the Yahoo journalist back last year, before the floods of Great Britain, before Great Britain was covered in 1,000-foot floods, completely covering the country. Well, the UK is not a country, it's actually part of a combination of countries. And it just covered the whole place, honestly. We're completely underwater right now. In fact, we've got a big bubble to protect ourselves because the world is being flooded. Right, enough of that BS. Let's talk about the sinkholes. Right, so if you go back last year, there was this story about this sinkhole that appeared underneath a man's house, and it swallowed a man. And the newspapers went batshit crazy about it. Absolutely nuts. Fruity, in fact. There were 2 slices short of a bloody fruitcake. And they were saying, oh, you know, the police, the fire brigade, the ambulances, the rescue team are no longer looking for this man anymore. Well, yeah, they know where he is, don't they? They're saying they're no longer rescuing him either. So that got a big hit on the internet. Immediately, people go, oh, what would happen if that happened around here? Oh my God, what's going to happen? And then the national newspapers said, it could happen anywhere. Anytime. It's very common in Britain for these to happen. And then I started to question what was going on there, because yes, sinkholes can happen. They usually happen in areas where man has interfered. Don't forget that. They don't mention that. For instance, the last sinkhole that appeared in Britain was underneath a house where, you know, there was an underground cavern for mines or something, and it collapsed in on itself, releasing a big hole in the ground. And the media went crazy about that. It's the floods. You know, the floods are causing global warming, etc. It doesn't actually mention the fact that, you know, underground caverns and mines, etc., and tunnels can collapse in on themselves sometimes, and of course the floods don't help, but you're asking for it. Right? You build your house upon the sands, you're going to get spanked. Your ass is going to be spanked so hard that it's going to be red raw, like a porn video. So you got to be careful of this stuff, guys. I know it's mostly not other people's faults. They don't know where their houses are being built, but a lot of us, especially in northwest of England, are above underground tunnels. There's thousands of miles of this stuff. So, you know, well, of course, most of the time they're okay, they're reasonably solid. I mean, the Victorians were very good builders. Of course, things can collapse, but hopefully they are keeping an eye on it, and they are making sure that these underground caverns, caves, don't collapse in on themselves. So that is man-made, yeah, not environmental, but man-made. It's a risk factor, and they can happen. Now, there are other types of sinkholes that can occur, which is where the ground underneath caves in on itself, where there was some space, but that's extremely rare. Doesn't happen very often. Can happen, doesn't happen very often. It's very, very rare. In fact, I've yet to hear of any case in the UK of that happening. But the media was all over it. You know, they were picking out stories from all different locations around the world. Now, most people who read these stories have got a low attention span because, you know, they like to read the Sunday sports, they think they're getting their education from this particular newspaper, and they're looking at page 3. wanking, you know, stuff like that, playing with themselves while reading this educational video. Educational newspaper. That's whatever. Right, so fraudulent slip. Right, so they're reading that and they're watching pictures, yeah, of course, and they think they know it all, and they come out with the most vilest, frothing at the mouth BS. You know, our world's overpopulated. Oh no, we're ruining the place. Look, sinkholes are appearing. What will we do about global warming? Look what happened in Japan when the tsunami started. And, you know, it was caused by an earthquake. But it just shows just how far man is going. Yeah, just one thing. The tsunami in Japan was caused by an underground earthquake, thousands upon thousands of miles deep, where the plates have shifted and they caused a boom. Not man-made at all. Doesn't matter if man was there or not. If man didn't exist, it would still happen. That's nature calling, right? So it's not that man are going too far. I remember seeing a stupid comment on a certain Yahoo page, and you know, I just wanted to. I was thinking of getting a big woolly banana, tracking them down and just beating them with it, beating them with a soft head with it, a big soft banana in my hand, you know, like a big dummy. And just, I'm sure you can actually beat somebody up with like you know, a bloom banana or something if you really wanted to, but you know, this guy was as I said, 2 slices short of a fruitcake. Really stupid. So you do get some people like that, by the way, but the sinkholes, these stories were just all over the place, especially over the last 6 months. And it's not just because of the floods. Of course the floods will erode certain places, of course they will, and I do believe that we should be looking after our environment. I'm not totally against it, you know. I remember back in the 80s, you know, late 80s and early 90s, when I was living right next to, bang smack into, you know, next to a main road. And of course now and again you would get a car parked in your house. But the smell and the stench of the smoke coming from those cars was unbelievable. I don't smell that anymore. So the environmental people went about it, did something good at least. You know, I do appreciate good work, and that was good work, you know, cleaner fuel. I do agree with this because I've had experiences and I can tell you what it was like before unleaded and before these engines were cleaned and made to burn the fuel more effectively, so not cause so much smoke, etc. They were cleaning the air, and that's a beautiful thing. I like that. But these sinkhole stories are going well over the top, and you can guarantee you'll get a lot more coming. It doesn't matter what country they happen in, they will come. And why? Hello, fracking. You fracking gits. Hello. Those guys drilling underground where all the gas and the oil reserves are, pumping out all the gas and oil. Now you think about this. When they start pumping out this, they reduce the ground pressure underneath. They create a space where there's less pressure. It was more pressure before, full of gas, pushing all this land away. But once you remove it, the ground starts to push back inwards, especially the oil. It starts pushing back inwards, increasing the risk of sinkholes and earth collapses. So what do the media want to do? Well, of course, these editors and the top journalists have been paid by this fracking company to make these stories about sinkholes and normalise them before we actually have more problems. They want to normalise the sinkhole stories before the problem even begins. Clever, sneaky bastards. That's exactly what this is all about, isn't it? Fracking. I've been looking at you for quite some time, and that is really devious, especially of the national newspapers and some of the journalists. I'm sure most of them don't know what they're talking about. They don't really understand why these stories need to be printed all the time, and why, you know, a sinkhole of about 10 foot deep appearing in some place in Pakistan is big news in the UK. You know, and whenever a sinkhole happens in the UK, my God, there's the newspapers all over it. Yeah, they've got to pick that story out. They've got to cherry pick that story. You know, there's a place in the UK, in Cornwall, where a sinkhole appeared underneath a house that didn't damage the house, but actually removed a big chunk of land. And they forgot to mention, of course, that there was an underground cavern underneath there for mining. Well, that's not mentioned at all, of course. And they also forgot to mention about the floods, you know, that may have caused it. But they're saying, oh, these things can happen anywhere, anytime. You could be walking down the street and suddenly, ba-boom, you disappeared into the oblivion of a sinkhole. You can guarantee these stories are going to come up more and more, because you just think about it, guys. Normalise the stories before they even occur. Normalise these stories so the sheeple are used to the story. I'm not being rude to the people out there on YouTube. Sorry, I don't mean to be like that, but I'm just saying, you know, there's nothing worse than somebody going around doing something for the environment with foam frothing at the mouth, spitting and raving like a bloody fruitcake, and talking absolutely non-stop to people online, saying, you're ruining it, we need to get rid of half the population. we need population. People left. I mean, you can literally feel the hatred and the energy coming from them just based on the writing. It's hilarious to watch, but it's also quite it's quite lovely to actually see some of these people leave comments, but they don't really think with their own head. You know, there's an obvious reason why all these sinkhole stories are coming up in the national newspapers. I said this 3 months ago on people's Facebook page. I said they're going to normalise these stories before the problem even begins. And fracking are starting up already. So what better way than to create a load of sinkhole stories ready for fracking when they start to appear all over the place. This is why many people are actually campaigning against fracking, simply because of not just they were campaigning about the environment. All right, what they didn't actually campaign about was the pressure underneath the ground, which will be reduced by fracking if things don't go well. Of course, they say they're going to pump water down the earth. Well, that's great, isn't it? So what they're going to do is they're going to waste the little reserves of water we already have. Because, of course, we're running out of water, of course. There's not much left. There's not, the world's covered in 2/3 of water, but we're running out. And they're going to pump all this water down the ground, all this drinkable water. They're doing a lot of damage, aren't they, when you think about it? Yeah. Whatever. So that's just something I wanted to talk about, fracking, because of course you have to think with your head sometimes. What do you think's going on? Why do you think there's been more sinkhole stories in the last 6 months than there's been in 20 years in national newspapers? You think about that. You go away and think about that with a scone and a cup of tea, and come back to me. Come back to this channel and leave a comment down below. Alright? Okay? Alright, see you guys. Sorry. Bye bye.